Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to People in April. People April, perhaps even People. This is a BookTube event created by Roz at Scaly Dandling About the Books and Elizabeth at Bookends at Books, designed to celebrate life writing of all kinds, memoirs, letter collections, celebrity breathless tell-alls, full dress biographies, which is my favorite kind of writing, uh, all throughout the month of April. And I have been doing that largely without, as a stranger to myself. Largely, I have gone through my day. I go through my day writing and dealing with editors when it's a work day, and also accumulating rough ideas, sketches of the night's reading. There is daytime reading. There is daytime reading where I'll finish up some sort of task, and there'll be a book right there, whether new or old, something from the Brattle or something that just came in the mail, and I will pick it up and start reading and then finish it. But the nighttime is a great squandering of reading. It's a huge outlay of reading time, and I'm building that night reading during the day as I go along. Uh, Usually influenced by the day. BookTube, of course, influences that. For instance, for all of April, I've been adding something biographical to almost every night's reading, specifically because of People in April. Uh, but sometimes the news also prompts that reading, and sometimes they go together. And I was obsessively refreshing two pieces of American news yesterday, all day. I know that's not healthy. It's not healthy to obsessively refresh like that, but I couldn't help it. Uh, on the one hand, because I thought a small tragedy was in the offing, and in the other, because I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that a huge tragedy is in the offing. One was taking place on college campuses. One of those stories that was unfolding was taking place on college campuses, where college students have been protesting Israel's slaughter of Gaza, and those protests have been infiltrated by a very large and very vocal number of violent anti-Semitic people, of Nazis, uh, who don't care at all about they don't care at all about justice for the Palestinians. They care about dead Jews, and that is causing lots and lots of fiery behavior. It's causing lots and lots of increasingly thuggish resistance on the part of universities. It it can't help but revive memories of Kent State, among other things. It can't help but feel like it's on the edge of disaster. I don't think that that will happen. I'm hoping that it won't. Uh, what one university bureaucrat horrifyingly refers to as public mitigation measures, those are much stronger. Those are rendered much stronger by the social and even political apparatus that sprang up around COVID-19. I'd like to think that in other words, horrible as it is, I'd like to think the instruments are in place to make sure that these things don't flare out of control. Although some universities have taken drastic steps, they've gone to virtual classes. No, don't come to campus. I think even a graduation ceremony or two have been canceled over this. And that was one story that I was watching that bid fair to become a small tragedy. If for instance, a National Guard member or armed campus security were to open fire, or if one of those anti-Semitic radicals infiltrated into these groups were to open fire, then you could easily see a tragedy on campus where 300 people are shot in a quadrangle. That would be, it's horrifying, but that would be a small tragedy compared to the other tragedy that I was looking at, which is the United States Supreme Court just sort of ordinarily come over for a cuppa and let's have a nice chat about whether or not Donald Trump is a god. I don't know. I mean, let's hash out the pros and cons here. Is he a god or isn't he? I mean, hypothetically, if he were a god, would he be able to do this? Would he be able to kill somebody? And if he did kill somebody, is there anything that we could do about that? An appellate court settled this. It's black letter law. It could not be simpler. A 5-year-old knows what this is. The only reason the Supreme Court took up the question of so-called presidential immunity is to grant it. It's the only reason the Trump court would do this. The law is not in question at all. And I knew that going in, but I didn't count for how gruesome the spectacle would be watching it unfold. I didn't account for how gut-churningly gruesome it would be to see that. To see the Trump court just sort of, oh, I don't know. Well, I don't know. I mean, it wouldn't be very nice, but if you were president or ever had been president or ever thought about being president, could he take a flamethrower to your grandmother's face? I mean, you wouldn't like that. She wouldn't like it either. I don't know, though. Let's think about that. Could he do that? And under what circumstances could he? Just astonishing to see. It was just astonishing to see. And either one of those things, either one of those things that I was obsessing about yesterday could have prompted the night's reading, but it turns out the latter did, because I called up this book, which really did help a lot. It really did feel great to read. It's a terrific anthology, and it's an anthology of speeches and letters and decisions and whatnot. I thought it just barely counts as People April. I think it kind of does. It's an anthology, so it's all done by another hand, not by the actual person. And there's a biographical essay at the beginning. You can definitely chart the person's biography throughout the course of the book. I think it kind of counts. If autofiction counts, then this counts. This is The Essential Holmes by Richard Posner, who was forever and ever an appellate court judge here in the United States. He pulled together an anthology of all the writings of Oliver Wendell Holmes. All kinds of writings. I could have stood this book to be twice as long. I guess in a way, I am waiting for an anthology just like this. So personal letters, I have a whole shelf of Holmes's personal letters. Writings that he did, occasional writings that he did, all kinds of jurisprudence writing that he did. Diary entries. He left a vast, vast body of writing behind. I keep waiting for an Essential Holmes to be 1,000 pages long. But this was just what the doctor ordered. Oh my, was it just what the doctor ordered? Holmes was a remarkable figure. He was a remarkable figure. I've read every biography of him, some of them much better than others. Pardon the sound of hammering. There's a little bit of construction going on in the house across the way. It's much needed construction, so I'm not begrudging them, but it might come through in the audio. Where was I? Oh, right. Every time I renew my acquaintance with Holmes's voice on the page, I'm always happy that I did, no matter what it is. There are a whole bunch of letter collections that are just collections of his correspondence with person X, Y, or Z. And those are great too. I confess that when it's the Holmes Lasky letters, when I go through that 2-volume set that I have, I often just skip Lasky's letters. I'll just skip them and go straight to Holmes, and that works against the collection, because Lasky, who's in this volume, I mean, he was a correspondent of Holmes. Lots of people were. That approach works against it, because I honestly think that Lasky was mostly an annoyance to Holmes. I think if you'd woken up Holmes early in the morning, he wouldn't have remembered who Lasky was. So, and a lot of his letters show that. So you want a collection like that, or other collections where it's Holmes / somebody, you really shouldn't skip the other person, because a lot of times Holmes is just being polite. He was a deep thinker and an original thinker, a very energetic prose stylist, although not the whole Holmes family. It's difficult to explain them, him or once upon a time his even more famous father. It's difficult to explain that they weren't brilliant. They were surrounded by brilliant people. You can definitely see brilliance around them, and you can see the contrast with what they are. They were more just unsleepingly alert and sharp as a tack. But if you read Holmes's decisions, I mean, for instance, he wrote a lot of his decisions himself, and when you read his court decisions, you're seeing that brilliance, that leaping quality of the mind, but you're not seeing, or you're seeing that brightness, that sharpness, but you're not seeing something like you would see in Benjamin Cardozo, for instance, or in the lower court, Learned Hand. You're not seeing some. This is American jurisprudence writing. It's of extremely niche interest, so I don't know that any of you care. But when you read writings by some people connected with the bench, you get to moments in their parsing and stitching together of the law that make you just take a breath. Oh, you're right. That implication is lurking there, and I never saw it. Never. And no one else saw it either until you. Whereas that doesn't happen with Holmes. It didn't happen with his father either. with other subjects. It doesn't happen with Holmes. Instead, it's just the brightest, friendliest guy in the room who's never got anything he's read going over all of this stuff. He's not penetrating any deeper than anybody else has ever penetrated, but it's a wonderfully refreshing thing to do. My favorite part of this book were his journals and letters, not the legal writing. But I loved the whole thing. I don't recall that I ever got a copy of this from the publisher when it originally came out. I looked, and I don't have it. I would not have got rid of this. But it was just what I needed. It really restored me after a day of watching Holmes's old institution, the U.S. Supreme Court, change America. All day long yesterday, the U.S. Supreme Court laid the groundwork for changing America, and no Americans paid attention. So it was weird to see. That was just a century ago that Holmes was there. So that's my reading experience for today. For People, April was a perfect example of how the day's currents, the day's things, prompted the night's reading. We'll see if that happens today. I'm going to try not to obsess about any news today. We'll see what the biography that's added on tonight will be. We just have a few more days in April. I want to make the most of it, so I'm not going to skip a night. But I don't have any I don't think I have any biographies that I'm reading tonight for so-called real books, for my normal reading, new releases. So could be a long work. I could add a long work tonight. You never know. I will report back tomorrow. So I will wrap this up for now, and I will see you then. Thank you, BookTube.